I parked 2 streets away because I wanted the surprise to last a little longer. After 8 months on base, Christmas leave had finally come through earlier than expected. My suitcase sat in the trunk beside wrapped presents. I'd imagined my daughter's face 100 times during long nights away. Every version ended with laughter. Instead, I found her sitting on the front porch. She was bundled into a coat too thin for the cold, hugging a worn teddy bear against her chest. Her cheeks were pink from the wind rather than excitement. She looked up, blinked twice, and whispered as though repeating a rule she didn't fully understand. Daddy said we don't belong here anymore. For a second, I thought she'd misunderstood some grown-up conversation. Then I followed her eyes toward the living room window. The Christmas tree glowed in the corner. My husband stood beside it, laughing softly as a woman I'd never seen adjusted a string of lights across the branches. She reached up to kiss him without hesitation. He smiled the way he used to smile at me before deployments became longer than holidays. There were stockings on the fireplace. Mine was gone. I didn't knock. I picked up my daughter with one arm, lifted my overnight bag with the other, and walked back to my car. Come with Mom, I said. She rested her head against my shoulder without asking where we were going. That silence hurt more than anything I'd seen through the window. We spent the night in a small hotel near the highway. She fell asleep almost immediately, still holding the teddy bear. I sat beside the bed watching headlights move across the curtains, wondering how many moments I'd missed while convincing myself that serving my country also meant protecting my family. Military life teaches you to react under pressure. It doesn't teach you what to do when the battlefield is your own home. By morning, my phone was full of missed calls. Then came the messages. Where are you? You misunderstood. Let's talk before you do something irrational. None of them asked whether our daughter was warm or frightened. That answered more questions than the messages themselves. The following days became strangely ordinary. I contacted my commanding officer, who quietly helped me understand the military resources available for family emergencies. He didn't offer sympathy wrapped in speeches. He simply pointed me toward the legal office and reminded me to document everything. That calm professionalism kept me steady. Instead of confronting my husband, I gathered records, mortgage statements, bank accounts, insurance documents, photographs of our home, text messages. My attorney asked very few dramatic questions, mostly practical ones. Who has been the primary caregiver when you're home? Who enrolled your daughter in school? Has anyone prevented you from seeing your child? Reality, I learned, isn't built from emotional speeches, it's built from paperwork. A week later, my husband finally agreed to meet. He looked tired, not guilty, just inconvenienced. He insisted the relationship had simply happened. He said loneliness had changed him. He suggested we avoid making everything legal for our daughter's sake. I listened. For the first time in years, I didn't interrupt. When he finished, I simply told him my attorney would communicate any future arrangements. He looked surprised, almost disappointed. Perhaps he'd expected shouting. People often prepare themselves for anger. Few know what to do with restraint. The real turning point came inside a family courtroom several weeks later. There were no dramatic revelations, no speeches, no applause, just a judge reviewing evidence, financial records, living arrangements, and testimony. Temporary custody orders were established. The house could not simply become someone else's Christmas fantasy overnight. Financial responsibilities were clearly assigned. Neither parent would make unilateral decisions affecting our daughter without legal consequence. It wasn't revenge, it was structure. The room felt almost disappointingly ordinary. Yet when we walked outside, I realized control had shifted completely. Not because I had won an argument, because impartial authority had replaced manipulation. Months later, our daughter asked whether Santa would still know where to find us. We were living in a smaller townhouse by then. The furniture didn't match. The decorations came from discount stores. The Christmas tree leaned slightly because one leg of the stand was bent. I told her Santa had always been better with addresses than adults. She laughed, a real laugh this time, the first one I'd heard in months. Sometimes people ask whether I regret walking away without confronting them that afternoon. The truthful answer surprises them. No, if I had opened that front door, the memory would belong to betrayal forever. Instead, my strongest memory is lifting my daughter into my arms, choosing her before choosing my pride, everything that followed. The court orders, the paperwork, the difficult conversations was simply the consequence of that first decision. Some losses never stop hurting. Trust doesn't return because a judge signs documents. Families don't heal on a schedule. But dignity has its own quiet rhythm. Years later, my daughter remembers very little about the woman inside that house. She remembers the teddy bear, she remembers the cold porch, and she remembers that when she whispered, "We don't belong here anymore," someone answered by taking her somewhere she truly did.